Complete silence filled the vast chamber. Ju stood with her hand extended, palm up, before the towering sovereign. Hundreds of Vorax warriors watched, their compound eyes reflecting the scene in countless tiny images. The sovereign remained still, studying Ju. Then slowly, with deliberate movements that seemed to take forever, the massive alien lowered its head. In a gesture not seen for thousands of years, the sovereign folded back its deadly mandibles, exposing the vulnerable nerve clusters beneath. My monster laid down its teeth, Ju thought, understanding the profound significance of the moment. A sound like wind through trees filled the chamber as the assembled Vorax whispered to each other. Many of the older ones clicked their mandibles in what seemed like amazement. Even Razor Edge had gone silent, his aggressive posture softening in confusion. The sovereign spoke, its voice different without the mandibles to modify the sound. No being has shown such trust to the Vorax since before the great betrayal. From the side of the chamber, Talon of Dusk stepped forward. The ancient Vorax's exoskeleton was dull with age, but its movements were precise and dignified. The human honors the old ways, Talon of Dusk said, addressing the gathered Vorax. She offers trust before demanding it. This is how we once were, before fear changed us. The sovereign's compound eyes never left Ju's face. You knew the risk you were taking. Yes, Ju said simply, but I believed it was worth it. Around the chamber, one by one, the Vorax began to fold their mandibles back, mimicking the sovereign's gesture. The wave of movement spread from the elders to the warriors, and finally even to Razor Edge, who seemed reluctant but unable to resist the power of the moment. In all our conquests, the sovereign said, we sought safety through fear. Yet here stands one small human, showing more courage than our entire species has shown in millennia. The sovereign straightened to its full height. The blood debt is settled, it declared, not through combat or servitude, but through wisdom. Ju lowered her hand, relief washing over her face. Then we can discuss peace. More than peace, the sovereign replied. Alliance, the first in Vorax history. Talon of Dusk stepped closer, addressing Ju directly. You have done what I hoped you would. I have waited my entire life to see the Vorax remember who we once were. The old alien turned to the sovereign. Our star grows more unstable. Soon another great flare will come. Instead of conquering a new world, perhaps we can ask for help this time. The sovereign seemed to consider this. It will not be easy to change what has been our way for so long. Change never is, Ju said, but humans know something about adapting. We can help each other. Later, as Ju rejoined her team in their quarters, they greeted her with a mixture of relief and amazement. How did you know it would work? Dongnan asked, his earlier doubts replaced with respect. I didn't, Ju admitted, but Sunhee's discovery about their biology and their history gave me hope. They weren't born conquerors. They became that way because of trauma and fear. Hyun was already working at his tablet. The sovereign has sent the first draft of a treaty. It's remarkable. They're offering to share technology, resources, even military protection. In exchange for a new home, Ju said, having discussed this with the sovereign. Sunhee looked up from her own work. We can help them find a stable star system. Earth has terraformed technology that could adapt a world to their needs. And in return, we gain allies instead of enemies, Ju said. The most powerful allies in the galaxy. As the Serenity prepared to return to Earth with the historic treaty, Ju stood at a viewport, watching the strange orange world below. The sovereign had come to see them off, standing with its mandibles folded back in the gesture of trust that was becoming common again among the Vorax. Humanity hadn't won through superior firepower or technology. They had won by offering an open hand when everyone else had shown only fists. One small human's courage had changed the course of two species forever. Ready to make history, Commander? Han asked as they prepared for departure. Ju smiled. We already have. Ju walked alone through the great black crystal hallways of the Vorax Palace. Two guards moved silently behind her. their mandibles clicking softly. They had taken her communicator and scanner, leaving her with nothing but her uniform. The time for her meeting with the sovereign had come. Her team had protested her plan to go alone, but Ju had been firm. "This isn't about logic," she had told them. "It's about showing something they haven't seen in thousands of years." The hallway opened into the largest chamber Ju had seen yet. Hundreds of Voraks lined the walls, their compound eyes glittering in the dim light. Their mandibles clicked in a wave of sound as she entered. At the far end, the sovereign sat on a raised platform, its massive form even more imposing in this formal setting. Beside the sovereign stood Razor Edge, the young warrior who had attacked Dongman. His carapace gleamed with fresh polish, and his mandibles were open in what Ju now recognized as a display of dominance. "Commander of Earth," the sovereign's voice boomed through the translator. "Have you made your choice? Will your warrior face Razor Edge in combat, or will you surrender yourselves to Vorak's authority?" Ju took a deep breath and stepped forward. The clicking of mandibles grew louder as she walked past rows of Vorak's warriors. Many were larger than Razor Edge, their bodies scarred from battles on distant worlds. "I have made a choice," Ju said, her voice clear and strong. "But not from the options you gave." A harsh sound like metal scraping stone filled the room. The translator struggled with the noise, finally rendering it as unacceptable. The sovereign rose to its full height, nearly 4 meters tall. "The law of restitution is absolute. Blood was spilled. A choice must be made. Your laws are based on fear," Ju said calmly. "I understand that now." The room went silent. Even Razor Edge's mandibles stopped their threatening clicks. "You know nothing of our ways," the sovereign said, but its voice was less certain. "I know more than you think," Ju replied. She continued walking forward until she stood directly before the sovereign, close enough to be killed instantly by those powerful mandibles. Behind the sovereign, Ju spotted Talon of Dusk, watching intently, his ancient eyes fixed on her. "You were not always conquerors," Ju said. "You became this way after the Solani betrayed you. You learned that to survive, you must be feared." The sovereign's compound eyes reflected Ju's image dozens of times. "This is true. It is the way of the galaxy." "No," Ju said firmly. "It is one way. There are others." Ju slowly raised her right hand, palm up and empty. The gesture was simple but deliberate, exactly as Sunhee had seen in the ancient paintings. "I carry no deception," she said, using the ancient Vorax greeting that Talon of Dusk had taught her. A murmur of clicking spread through the hall. Many of the younger Vorax seemed confused, but the elders shifted uneasily, recognizing the ancient words. The sovereign stared at Ju's outstretched hand. "What are you doing, human?" "I'm showing you another way," Ju said, "one that doesn't require either side to die." Razor Edge stepped forward, mandibles clicking rapidly. "This is a trick. She mocks our ways." "I honor your ways," Ju corrected him, never taking her eyes off the sovereign. "Your ancient ways, from before the fear." The sovereign studied her. "You are defenseless before me. I could kill you with one strike." "Yes," Ju agreed, "just as the Solani could have killed your ancestors, but you learned the wrong lesson from that betrayal. Not all species are the same." The chamber was completely silent now. Hundreds of Vorax watched, motionless. "You are still a predator species," Ju continued. "You have teeth, you have armor, you have strength, but I am not afraid of you." She stepped even closer, her hand still extended. "I see you, sovereign of the Vorax, not as a monster, but as a being who wants to protect their people." The sovereign's massive form seemed to waver slightly. Its compound eyes reflected every detail of Ju's face. "The choice I make," Ju said, "is trust." Sunhee burst into the meeting room where Ju, Hyun, and Dongman were discussing their options. Her eyes were wide with excitement. "I think I understand," she said, out of breath from running. The information from Talon of Dusk makes sense now. Calm down, Ju said. What did you find? Sun He placed her tablet on the table. The screen showed detailed scans of Vorax biology. Look at these scans, she said, pointing to the mandibles. We thought these were just weapons, but they're much more than that. The team gathered around the tablet. The image showed a complex network of nerves inside the Vorax mandibles. These are neural clusters, Sun He explained. The most dense concentration of nerves in their entire body. Their mandibles aren't just for fighting. They're essential for their advanced communication. Hyun studied the scans, like a second brain. More like a communication center, Sun He said. Remember how I said they use subtle movements to communicate? These nerve clusters allow them to sense tiny vibrations in the air, chemical signals, even temperature changes. It's how they communicate complex ideas so quickly. Ju began to understand. So their mandibles are their most vulnerable point. Sun He finished. Exposing them means being completely defenseless. That's why they always keep them moving or covered in threat displays. Dongmin, his chest still bandaged, leaned forward. But what does this have to do with our situation? Sun He pulled up another image, an ancient Vorax painting from Talon of Dusk's records. Look at this, she said. This is from before their first contact with aliens. See how these Vorax have their mandibles folded back. According to Talon of Dusk's notes, this was a greeting between trusted friends. Ju studied the image. They're exposing their weakness to show trust. Exactly, Sun He said. And there's more. The Vorax weren't always conquerors. Their biology isn't built for aggression. It's built for defense. She showed them more data from her research. Their entire evolution points to a species that's afraid. Their armor, their size, even their weapons, they're all defensive adaptations. Afraid. Dongmin looked skeptical. They've conquered 12 worlds. Out of fear, Sun He insisted. Remember what the Sovereign told us about the Solani. After that betrayal, they decided the only safe option was to attack first. They'd been living in constant fear for so long, it became their way of life. Hyun's eyes widened with understanding. They're not monsters. They're terrified. Exactly, Sun He said. They attack because they're afraid everyone else will attack them first, just like they were attacked before. Ju stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the orange sky. So they're trapped in a cycle of fear and violence. A cycle that's been going on for thousands of years, Sun He confirmed. They don't know any other way to survive. Ju turned back to her team. This changes everything. How? Dongmin asked. They still want me to fight to the death or all of us to become their servants. Maybe not, Ju said slowly, an idea forming. Talon of Dusk didn't give us this information for nothing. He wants change too. What are you thinking, Commander? Hyun asked. Juhu's face showed determination. I'm thinking we need to break the cycle. Stop playing by rules based on fear. The Sovereign won't just forget their laws, Dongmin warned. I'm not asking them to forget their laws, Juhu said. I'm going to give them something they haven't seen in millennia. Trust. Sun He looked worried. What exactly are you planning? Something dangerous, Juhu admitted. But if I'm right about the Vorax, it might be our only chance, not just to save ourselves, but to save them from themselves. Dongmin shook his head. This is crazy. Whatever you're thinking. This is why Earth sent us. Juhu interrupted. Not to fight, but to find another way. She looked at each of her crew members. I need you to trust me. After a moment, Hyun nodded. What do you need us to do? For now, nothing. Juhu said. This is something I have to do alone. She touched her communicator. I need to speak with the Sovereign. Privately. As she waited for a response, Juhu knew she was about to risk everything. But for the first time since landing on this world, she felt sure of her path. Back in their quarters, Dongmin lay on a medical bed while Sun He treated his wound. The cut across his chest was deep but clean. Their medical supplies had stopped the bleeding, but a bright red line remained where the Vorax's leg had sliced through his skin. "How bad is it?" Ju asked. "He'll live, son," he said, applying a healing gel to the wound. "Their biology is strange, but there's no poison or infection." Dongmin winced as the gel touched his skin. "I told you they couldn't be trusted." Ju paced the room, her mind racing. "This isn't about trust. It's about cultural misunderstanding. You stood up, which they saw as a challenge. So now I have to fight that thing to the death?" Dongmin asked, his voice tight with pain and anger. "Or we all become slaves." Hyun, who had been quiet since they returned, finally spoke. "We need to contact Earth Command. They need to know what's happening." Ju shook her head. Even at maximum speed, it would take days for a message to reach Earth, and days more for a response. "We have less than 30 hours to decide." "Then we need to escape," Dongmin said, trying to sit up. "Get back to the ship and leave. They'd shoot us down before we reached orbit," Ju said. "And even if we escaped, Earth would still face the Vorax threat." Sun He looked up from her medical work. "There must be another option. Some way to satisfy their laws without anyone dying." "I don't think there is," Ju said. "Their culture is built on strength and clear rules. Breaking those rules would be seen as weakness." A soft tone sounded at their door. Ju opened it to find a Vorax standing outside. It was smaller than the warriors, with a carapace that showed signs of age. "I am Talon of Dusk," it said through the translator. "Elder scholar of Vorax history. May I enter?" Ju hesitated, then stepped aside. "Please come in." The elderly Vorax moved slowly into the room. Dongmin tensed, but was too weak to get up. "Why are you here?" Ju asked. "To help," Talon of Dusk said. "Not all Vorax agree with the old ways. Some of us believe there can be alternatives." "The Sovereign said there are no alternatives," Ju reminded him. "The Sovereign must uphold our laws publicly," Talon of Dusk said. "But there are older laws, older ways that have been forgotten." The elder Vorax moved to a small table and placed an object on it. It looked like a crystal data storage device. "This contains historical records not shared with outsiders," Talon of Dusk explained. "The true history of the Vorax before we became conquerors." "Why show us this?" Hyun asked, suspicious. "Because I am old," Talon of Dusk said simply. "I have seen 12 cycles of our star's fury. I have witnessed many conquests. I am tired of the fear that drives us." Ju picked up the crystal. "How will this help us?" "Knowledge is power," Talon of Dusk said. "In these records, you may find a path that neither the Sovereign nor Razor Edge expect." The elder Vorax moved toward the door. "Study quickly. I have risked much by coming here." "Wait," Ju called. "Why help us?" Talon of Dusk turned back, mandibles moving slowly. "Because long ago, the Vorax were not feared across the galaxy. We were respected for our wisdom. I would see that time again before I join my ancestors." After the elder left, the humans gathered around the crystal. "This could be a trap," Dongmin warned. "Or it could be our only chance," Ju countered. Hyun connected the crystal to their computer. Strange symbols and images filled the screen. "It will take time to translate all this." "Time we don't have," Ju said. "Sunny, use your xenobiology knowledge. Focus on their communication patterns, their rituals. Hyun, look for anything about their legal system and historic precedents." "What about me?" Dongmin asked from his bed. Ju looked at him with sympathy. "Rest. Recover. If we can't find another solution, you'll need your strength." As her team began working, Ju stared out the window at the orange sky. Somewhere in that alien crystal was the key to saving her crew, and possibly Earth itself. She just had to find it in less than 30 hours. The feast hall was massive, with high ceilings that vanished into shadow. Long tables made of the same black crystal as the buildings filled the room. The humans sat at a smaller table beside the sovereign's platform. Around them, hundreds of Voraks clicked and hissed in their complex language. "Remember to keep your posture relaxed," Sun He whispered to the team. They read body language more than we realized. Juwu nodded. "And Dongmin, please try not to cross your arms. To them, it looks like you're preparing to attack." Dongmin forced his arms to his sides. "I'll try, Commander." Servants brought out strange dishes on large platters. Some foods moved slightly, while others glowed with soft light. Hyun checked each dish with his scanner before they tried any. "The orange one is safe," he said quietly. "It's similar to fish protein." As they ate, the sovereign addressed the gathered Voraks, with the humans' translators working to keep up. "Today marks a historic moment. For the first time, we consider peace instead of conquest. The humans have shown courage by coming here." A murmur of clicking mandibles spread through the hall. Some sounded pleased, others angry. Dongmin leaned toward Juwu. "Not all of them are happy about this." He was right. Near the back of the hall, a group of younger Voraks were making sharp, aggressive movements with their front legs. Their mandibles clicked rapidly, and what the humans had learned was a sign of disagreement. One young Vorak stood taller than the rest. Its carapace was bright with patterns that Sunny had explained were a sign of youth and high rank. It began walking toward the human table, its legs striking the floor with sharp taps. "We have trouble," Ju said under her breath. "Everyone stay calm." The young Voraks stopped in front of their table and addressed them in broken human language. "You weak. Why sovereigns speak to pray?" Ju started to answer, but Dongmin stood up first. "We are not prey," he said firmly. The Vorax's mandibles opened wide, showing the sharp inner teeth. "Prove strength." Dongmin squared his shoulders. "We don't need to prove anything to you." The young Vorax interpreted Dongmin's stance as a challenge. Without warning, it lunged forward, its front legs raised. One sharp appendage slashed across Dongmin's chest, cutting through his uniform. Dongmin fell back with a cry of pain. Blood spread across his shirt. In an instant, chaos erupted. Hyun and Sunny rushed to Dongmin. Other Voraks rose from their seats, mandibles clicking rapidly. The young Vorax raised its leg for another strike. Juwu moved without thinking. She stepped between Dongmin and the Vorax, her back straight, her hands empty and open. "Stop," she shouted. The room fell silent. The young Vorax froze, its legs still raised. Behind it, other Vorax warriors had moved closer, their bodies tense and ready for action. A loud, sharp sound cut through the silence. The sovereign had struck its platform with its mandibles. The sound echoed through the hall. "Silence," the sovereign commanded. It moved with surprising speed for its size, towering over the young Vorax and the humans. "Blood has been spilled," it said, its voice cold through the translator. "In our laws, this cannot go unanswered." Juwu stood her ground. "It was a misunderstanding. We came in peace." The sovereign's compound eyes fixed on her. "Peace or not, blood has been spilled. The law of restitution must be followed." The young Vorax clicked its mandibles in what seemed like satisfaction. "This is Razor Edge, son of a high warrior," the sovereign explained. "He has challenged your warrior and drawn blood. By our oldest laws, a choice must now be made." Jumu glanced back at Dongmin. Sun He had opened a medical kit and was treating the wound. It wasn't life-threatening, but it was deep. "What choice?" Ju asked, turning back to the sovereign. The massive alien's mandibles opened slightly. "Either your warrior must face Razor Edge in ritual combat to the death, or your people must surrender your ship and become servants of the Vorax." Gasps came from both the humans and some of the Vorax elders. "Sovereign," Ju began, "surely there's another way." "There is no other way," the sovereign interrupted. "Blood has been spilled. The law is clear." The young Vorax, Razor Edge, clicked his mandibles in what was clearly a taunt. You have one planetary rotation to decide, the Sovereign said. Choose wisely, Commander of Earth. As guards escorted the humans back to their quarters, Ju knew that everything they had worked for was now hanging by a thread. 3 days had passed since the humans first set foot on Vorax Prime. Ju sat in the chamber provided for their delegation, reviewing her notes. The walls around her were made of the same black crystal as everything else in the city, but the Vorax had furnished it with items that would be comfortable for humans. A soft knock came at the door. Enter, Ju called. Sunhee rushed in, her eyes bright with excitement. Commander, I've made a breakthrough. Tell me, Ju said, setting aside her tablet. The Vorax aren't just talking with sounds, Sunhee explained. They're also using sense and tiny movements. That's why the translator misses so much. They're having half the conversation in ways we can't detect. Ju considered this. Can we upgrade the translators? Hyun is working on it now, Sunhee said. But there's more. I think we've misunderstood their history completely. Before Sunhee could continue, another knock came. Dongmin entered, looking less tense than he had since they arrived. The Sovereign has invited us to a historical presentation, he said, something about showing us the truth of the Vorax. Ju nodded. Perfect timing. Sunhee was just saying we may have misunderstood their history. They gathered Hyun and made their way through the vast hallways. The Vorax they passed no longer seemed threatening, just different. After 3 days of meetings, the humans had grown somewhat used to the aliens' appearance. The Sovereign waited in a circular room with walls that seemed to glow from within. Commander Ju, it said, its mandibles moving in what they now recognized as a greeting gesture. Today you will understand why we are as we are. The lights dimmed, and the walls came alive with moving images. It was like being inside a movie. Our star is dying, the Sovereign explained as the images showed a sun growing unstable, flaring violently. It has been dying for thousands of years. Every few generations, it releases a massive blast that scores our world. The images shifted to show Vorax hurrying into underground shelters as their surface world burned. We evolved to survive this cycle, the Sovereign continued. Our bodies are made to endure, but each time, many die. We learned that to survive, we must find new worlds. Hyun spoke up, his voice respectful. But why conquer? Why not ask for help or trade? The Sovereign's compound eyes fixed on him. We tried. Once. New images appeared, showing smaller, less armored Vorax meeting with slender, blue aliens. The scene seemed peaceful at first, then turned to violence as the blue aliens attacked without warning, slaughtering the Vorax. The Silani were the first species we contacted, the Sovereign said. They welcomed us, learned of our plight, then tried to take our technology and resources. They saw us as monsters because of our appearance. They nearly destroyed our species. Chu watched as the images showed the few surviving Vorax fighting back, eventually driving the Silani away. After that, the Sovereign said, we learned a hard truth. In this galaxy, you must be feared to be safe. Those who extend a hand in friendship lose that hand. Jumu felt a deep sadness. Not all species are like the Silani, she said softly. Perhaps, the Sovereign replied. But we cannot risk extinction to find out. Later, as the humans discussed what they had learned, Dongmin seemed troubled. I still don't trust them completely, he said. But I understand them better now. Sunhee was busy with her notes. Their biology makes perfect sense now. They evolved for survival in extreme conditions. Their armor, their size, even their mandibles, all designed to protect them. And now they protect themselves by attacking first, Hyun added. Ju stared out the window at the strange city below. They're not conquerors by nature, she said. They're refugees, acting out of fear. So how do we convince them humans are different? Dongmin asked. Before Ju could answer, a young Vorax aide entered the room. The Sovereign requests your presence at tonight's feast, it said. All important treaties begin with sharing food. As the aide left, Ju felt hopeful for the first time. Treaties, she repeated. They're thinking about peace. Or they're luring us into a false sense of security, Dongmin warned. Ju shook her head. I don't think so. I think we might have a chance here. None of them knew how quickly that chance would be tested. The airlock of the Serenity hissed open. Ju took a deep breath of the ship's clean air before putting on her helmet. The sensors had shown that humans could breathe on Vorax Prime, but they would use their suits for the first meeting, just to be safe. Remember, she said to her team, no sudden movements. Keep your hands visible at all times. Dongmin checked his sidearm one last time. I still think this is a mistake. Your concern is noted, Ju said, but we leave the weapons here. Commander, Dongmin protested. That's an order, she said firmly. We come in peace, and we'll show it. Reluctantly, Dongmin placed his weapon on the rack. Hyun and Sunhee stood ready, their faces a mix of fear and excitement behind their helmet visors. Let's make history, Ju said, and stepped through the airlock. The gravity was slightly stronger than Earth's, making their first steps heavy. The air around them was thick with an orange haze, and the heat was intense even through their climate-controlled suits. The Vorax waited in perfect formation. Up close, they were even more frightening. The smallest was 3 meters tall, with a body that reminded Ju of ancient Earth legends about mantises, but covered in armor-like plates. Their 6 legs ended in points that clicked against the black crystal landing pad. The largest Vorax stepped forward. It towered above the others at nearly 4 meters tall. Its mandibles were lined with serrated edges that caught the light of the orange sun. I am the Sovereign, the translator in their helmets rendered. The actual sound was a series of clicks and hisses. You are the first outsiders to stand on our world in 700 cycles. Ju stepped forward, keeping her movements slow and deliberate. I am Commander Ju Park of Earth. We thank you for this honor. The Sovereign's compound eyes seemed to take in every detail of the human team. You are smaller than expected. Your kind has destroyed many of our scout ships. Self-defense only, Ju said carefully. We hope to end the need for such actions. The massive alien made a sound that the translator couldn't process. The other Vorax shifted their positions slightly. Follow, the Sovereign said simply, turning and walking toward a massive structure that gleamed like black glass in the distance. As they walked, Sunhee whispered into her comm, their movement patterns are fascinating. Notice how they never turn their backs on us. And the smaller ones are positioned to protect the Sovereign from all angles. Focus, Sunhee, Ju said. Observations later. The path led them to a huge doorway that opened silently as the Sovereign approached. Inside was a vast chamber with a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadows. The walls were covered in markings that looked like a cross between writing and art. This is the Hall of Victories, the Sovereign announced. Here we record the worlds that have fallen before us. Ju's heart raced as she looked at the markings. Each symbol likely represented a conquered civilization. Will Earth be added here? She asked, her voice steady despite her fear. The Sovereign's mandibles clicked rapidly. That depends on what happens in the coming days. The humans were led to a circular area in the center of the room. Other Vorax had gathered, their bodies perfectly still but their compound eyes tracking every movement the humans made. Sit, the Sovereign commanded, pointing to cushions on the floor that seemed oddly small compared to the massive aliens. As the humans carefully sat down, smaller Vorax entered carrying what looked like containers of liquid and food. You will join in the ceremony of meeting, the Sovereign said, folding its legs to lower its massive body to their level. This has not been performed for outsiders in many generations. Hyun glanced at his handheld scanner. Commander, the air reads safe, and the food appears non-toxic to humans. Jumu nodded and slowly removed her helmet. The air was warm and smelled like cinnamon and metal. The other team members followed her lead. The Sovereign's eyes focused intently on Juu's exposed face. You showed trust, it said, sounding almost surprised. We come seeking peace, Ju replied. Trust must begin somewhere. The sovereign made that untranslatable sound again, and this time, Ju thought it might be something like laughter. Interesting, said the sovereign. Very few species have ever chosen trust when facing the Vorax. Its mandibles opened wide, revealing more teeth than Ju had expected. Let us see if that trust is wisdom or foolishness. Around them, the gathered Vorax clicked their mandibles in what might have been agreement or anticipation. The diplomatic mission had truly begun, and Earth's fate hung in the balance. Commander Ju Park stood at the bridge of the Serenity *, her hands gripping the rail as she stared at the massive planet on the view screen. The world was a swirl of orange and red, with great clouds that looked like fire in the light of its unstable star. This was Vorax Prime, home to the most feared species in the known galaxy. Are you sure about this? Asked Hyun. The science officer's voice was steady, but Ju could see the worry in his eyes. We don't have much choice, she said. 12 worlds have fallen to the Vorax. Earth could be next. Dongmin, the security chief, checked his weapon for the 5th time that hour. I still say this is suicide. No one has ever landed on their world and lived to tell about it. That's why we're here, Ju said. To be the first. The ship hummed around them as it moved closer to the planet. 5 months ago, Earth Command had chosen Ju to lead this mission. Their orders were simple. Try to make peace with the Vorax before humanity had to go to war. Sunny, the team's xenobiologist, joined them on the bridge. Her eyes were bright with excitement despite the danger. Think about it. We'll be the first humans to study them up close, she said. If they don't eat us first, Dongmin muttered. Ju took a deep breath. Send the message again. Tell them we come in peace. Hyun's fingers danced across the control panel. Message sent. White flag protocol active. The ship was now broadcasting on all frequencies that they came with peaceful intent. For 3 long minutes, there was no response. The bridge was silent except for the soft beeping of instruments. Ju felt sweat forming on her forehead. Then, a harsh sound filled the bridge. It was like metal scraping against stone, with clicks and hisses mixed in. Translator working, Hyun said, his eyes wide. It's a response. The computer's voice spoke over the alien sounds. Approach on designated path. Deviate and be destroyed. Ju and her crew looked at each other in shock. No species had ever received permission to land on Vorax Prime. They're sending coordinates, Hyun said. It could be a trap, Dongmin warned. Ju nodded. It could be. But it could also be our only chance to prevent a war that might end humanity. She straightened her uniform. Plot the course. We're going in. The Serenity descended through the orange clouds. The ship shook as winds buffeted it from all sides. Through breaks in the cloud cover, they could see vast cities made of what looked like black crystal. Towers rose like sharp teeth from the ground. Life signs? Ju asked. Millions, Hyun replied. And the readings are strange. Their biology is nothing like ours. As they broke through the last layer of clouds, they saw the landing area. It was a massive flat space surrounded by Vorax ships. Each was at least 3 times the size of the Serenity *. Look at those weapons, Dongmin whispered. One shot could vaporize us. The ship landed with a gentle thud. Outside, they could see movement. Large shapes shifting in formation around their ship. Visual, Ju ordered. The screen changed to show the area around them. The crew gasped as one. The Vorax were huge. Standing on 6 legs, their bodies were covered in natural armor plates that gleamed like oil. Their heads had large compound eyes that reflected the light in rainbow patterns, but it was their front appendages that caught everyone's attention. Massive mandibles that looked sharp enough to cut through the ship's hull. They're forming lines, Hyun said. I think it's some kind of welcome ceremony. Jiwoo looked at her team. This was the moment everything changed. For them, for Earth, for the galaxy. "Prepare the landing party," she said. "We're making history today." Outside, the largest of the Voraks stepped forward. Its mandibles clicked as it waited for the humans to emerge. First contact had begun.